Let's eat some crab.
No, it's not.
So, the first crab I ever tried in China was a mitten crab.
But then,
It was just too...
Bekhufnika too.
After starving for 3 days, not only ramen but even plain rice tasted so delicious that I couldn't tell if I was full.
Everyone.
Hello, I'm Han Yumi. Yes, I congratulated Seonggyok and I also greeted him when I was greeting others.
He's very impatient, that's why.
Let me introduce myself.
If I introduce myself, my name is Jongmin Park, and I was born in Hamyang. Also, I graduated from Hamyang Jongsong High School, so I'm a Hamyang native. Yes.
Hamyang Nolsi, it's not that special.
There was a time when I was a bit wild too, yes.
That's right. So when I see it, I feel nostalgic, but today the internet seems even more chaotic.
Whoa, and I'm really nervous. I'm not very good at this broadcasting thing.
I did it, but
Since Dongseng Goyang invited me, today is a happy day for me. On this happy day, I feel truly honored. Yes, thank you. It's nice to meet you.
You said you lived in Hamhung before you started farming in Hamhung. What kind of jobs did you have?
If I want to fully understand that story, it never ends. But what I can briefly say is that I was born in Tan.
It's about tradition and about the homeland.
And also, isn't it something that our ancestors had?
But still, Japan.
I heard that the reason I was curious is because we don't really know our family names well. In Korea, they say there are only about 4 family names, but family names are originally words, so we can trace our genealogy.
Do you know again?
You know, today, more than just being unable to see Korea, the fact that I can use the word Hamyang again is really amazing.
Thank you, Hamyang.
Jianli Sungai always missed Hamyang.
It's there. If you look.
He never comes back.
But
Now that I've put down my burden, I can't go back again.
I used to work there.
I wasn't working a specific job there. In Hamhung, I was serving in the military, and while I was serving in the military there, I was discharged as a soldier.
So I became a military doctor.
So I was selected.
I was assigned to a military hospital in the north.
I was assigned to a provincial hospital, then reassigned to Hongwon County, where I served as a military doctor. North Korean military hospitals are different from others. All the new recruits are gathered together, and there are ways to check all the wounded, ways to enter the site, and guards who listen to orders and protect the area. But in reality, we didn't hear any gunshots or anything like that. We were just a group of medical staff assigned to the front lines.
When you say military doctor in North Korea, it's actually a pretty high-ranking position.
If you're a military doctor, rather than just your rank, it's more about your authority in the unit. You're the one who inspects the soldier's health, and you're the one who goes to each company and eats with the company.
Asisu military unit.
When you inspect the mess halls for hygiene, you see a lot of things, and you get to know the soldiers well.
There are a lot, that's why.
So, in the units that are stationed at the border or in remote outposts, there are a lot of hygiene violations.
I leave. So,
the most important thing is that according to military regulations, company commanders, battalion commanders, and even the officers who are a bit lower in rank all have to leave their units and go outside the base.
Which, even if it was just a little, I think it was good that my position improved.
Still, the training is basically the same as our basic winter training and academic winter training.
That's right, but
I'll try to be a little more free. Even though it's a little easier than other fields, and even though it's a technical job that only I can do, I think I can live a little more comfortably than in other fields. But inside there are rules for living and rules for working, and there are a lot of regulations you have to follow. So if you don't follow those rules, you can't really call it the military. From the morning meeting, you have to take care of everything from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Yes.
I heard that Hamyang Jongsong University is coming out and that Jongsong University is coming out.
Yes, I heard about it from there.
In our country, there are many different majors.
When you look at it this way, it's amazing. In North Korea, when they say Hamheung's Degari, it's an old dialect expression. Kim Il-sung once visited Hamhyung, and while he was there, he saw a group of orphans. he took off his own belt and gave it to the children, telling the officials to take care of them. That's why it's called that.
At that time, Zhongsong.
In recognition of their great devotion, the name was changed to Zhongsong University.
But then,
Now, if you talk about Zhongsong University, people might think it's something different. But if you mention the Korean Cheonilguk, everyone knows.
it's different, the direction is different, and so on.
The universities are separated due to different directions. In Korea, Western medicine, Korean medicine, and dentistry are all located together in one place. And then, for the first 2 years, everyone studies the same basic courses together, basic sciences, foundational courses, and liberal arts. After those 2 years, you finally get divided into your desired major or the one you're assigned to. For example, you might go into surgery, internal medicine, oriental medicine, or
Pediatrics?
in Korea, dentistry.
But in North Korea,
Bokal, when you hear Bokal, we often say it's a choice. So it's easy to misunderstand, but that's not the case.
I didn't specifically choose or specialize in it, but rather I was generally taught everything in this manner.
So, for 2 years, in dental school, we basically learn everything. In dental school, we basically learn all 36 subjects that are necessary for our bodies and for all the people we need to treat, starting from the basic medical sciences. And even though we learn all 36 subjects depending on your own major, you can go deeper and learn more specialized knowledge in that area.
Well, like I said before, at first I just wanted to become a doctor.
In Korea, they're called Hanuisa, and in North Korea, they're called Dongisa.
I was surprised, but as I kept doing it, I realized that life in North Korea wasn't as tough as I thought it would be.
Looking back on my life as a child, I don't think I ever thought it was that bad when I was young. But now, after leaving North Korea and experiencing a different environment now,
My life was just full of hardships.
life is tough to live.
How did you end up becoming a singer?
The reason I came here today is because there is a monument in Haecheon, Bayonbangde, Uide.
the same classmate.
That classmate and I made a promise to serve together in Haecheon. Now that you mention it, I submitted a discharge application.
The business trip certificate, that's right.
I submitted the business trip certificate to my unit. If you have a business trip certificate, you also have a leave certificate for a week, according to the unit.
That's how it works, so.
That's how I was able to go for a week. To the sea, we went. And at the sea, when it came to the military base, our neighborhood was so small that back then, we would get excited just seeing a submarine.
Naija,
You Hyung-yi,
there are a lot, and honestly,
the world still has so many things that are unfamiliar and things I want to know.
to me,
Kyungkuyu is interested in American military bases for national security reasons.
you see, it's China.
I found out everything.
That's right, but.
I don't know China very well.
So, for the first time,
But on our side of North Korea, when it gets to 9 or 10 o'clock, it gets dark and quiet.
it was quiet in China.
The other side, the area called Sanira, was brightly lit up, and even at midnight, you could see the lights shining.
Isn't that right? So,
So I gathered at the lake and asked, and that friend said he had gone over once to see. After hearing that, I wanted to go see for myself, so I asked the guide to take me to the other side, and that's how I ended up crossing over.
So now,
In Korea, there's something called ajit in the seaside. Do you know what ajit means? It's a place where you can live on your own, even if you're alone.
at home by yourself
Yedaeyuk.
until you get discharged.
Making storage rooms where you can prepare. Then after that, the warehouse. And after that, you go to the warehouse together and repeat the process.
Admission, then.
As this is a United States military matter, all expenses, it's all covered, so. Since it's a military matter, they sent me to China, to Changbai Mountain, beyond the border. That's how it all started.
on the side of Ilnulgyo, there was a dark forest, and on the side of Yangbeksan, there was a field of reeds, and that's how it was.
Wow.
So that it doesn't look flat.
I am Pyongyang.
On my way to Pyongyang,
The things I saw and heard there.
There's a mountain called Chokback Mountain in Haian Sea, Jeonneopyeon.
Back then, the fire was blazing, but inside, those things I saw and heard were very beautiful. So, to Yuhyung, I was tempted, and then
I was drawn to Yuhyung, and now I feel so frustrated.
it wasn't defection. I just crossed over to experience it, thinking I would just see what it was like. I tried to convince myself that I was only going to experience it, but deep down, we were already defectors and traitors. But now, to put it simply, defecting and crossing the border like that is something that soldiers in North Korea, especially those in high positions, can't even imagine.
Why?
Crossing the river, crossing the border, these things themselves are considered acts of treason.
But still.
But even so, I did it back then. I was only 28 years old, so that's how it was. Because I was full of ambition, things just kept coming my way, and I kept going. I kept moving forward. Hihanhan world, a world even harsher than China. Nowadays, we just say China. But back then, it was a place so remote and tough that you couldn't even see it on television or in real life. A place we could only imagine.
That's why, at first,
The place I ended up in
was Japan, Chum.
I was nervous but excited, unlike our uninterested female friends. As a pure girl, it was my first time going to China. When I spoke there, everyone was amazed.
Over here.
If I say it, it's not a karaoke bar or an entertainment business. It's just a place like a coffee shop.
I was going there.
It's a scene you can't see in North Korea. The small...
From the skyline.
To the
seagull, the snow.
in that dark, shadowy shape that looks like it's about to open its eyes. And then that strange smile, don't you think? In the north,
You can see it clearly.
that you can never see. How should I express this?
It comes.
I can't sing, and I don't really know how to act, but I just want to turn my body around in a very natural way. So you can't really see this kind of thing on regular television. So at that time, when I first did that on that stage,
It's so good.
right, so that's when it became internalized, it became a habit, and my mind started to change. That's how it was.
But back then I was
I couldn't
drink. But
In China, I initially thought the long line was for the bathroom, but people were just standing there by choice. Despite feeling awkward, since it was my first time, I joined the line too.
Bukan saram.
Given the many cars and the fact that it was a big city, it was really noisy. That's just how it is.
on the street in Jone,
The people there talk the same way,
since we were the same people, that's why.
because we're all the same. That was the first time I heard the word Obara. My Chinese friend, not someone from my hometown, called me Obara. In North Korea, if you're not the same, you're a comrade. But if you're a traitor, you get called Obara. In China, it's used as a curse, but traitor has a much heavier meaning. And then, when I heard those words, the dialect, the accent, the way of speaking, it was something I could never hear in North Korea. That kind of accent, the way of speaking, the affectionate tone, or even the slang, all of it reminded me of the days when I used to listen to smuggled broadcasts, so I couldn't even say oppa properly, and because of that, I was really self-conscious and embarrassed.
Oh my gosh.
I knew how to drink just enough to handle it, so I could act like this. I said something I shouldn't have. So the hand you reached out to me, the hand that was just for me, since you gave it to me, I thought that hand would only be mine.
I did, but.
The moment I let go,
And turned away.
it's scary. This is getting longer, and since it's my first time experiencing this,
I was nervous and anxious until the end.
as I kept listening, I got even more excited. Then one night became 2 nights, and 2 nights became 3 nights.
So,
Now, I started to look for everything I could see with my own eyes. But then, the camera would touch my body like this, then hold my hand and even follow me around. In North Korea, you can't have this.
I couldn't even imagine this.
Due to my experiences, I often feel like I'm dreaming, living someone else's life, or living the opposite life. That's how it feels to me.
I became the party secretary, but
At that time, even though I tried to act naturally and pretend to be calm because it was a place I had never been before, I tried to look relaxed. But instead of being relaxed, I became even more nervous. So I tried to act calm in that situation, but as I kept pretending, it just became a habit. When we go out, there's a specific time we must adhere to. If we want to exit through the main gate, guards are stationed there, so we must leave at the designated time while the soldiers are watching. But then, do you know how to use a lighter?
that.
Women are always thinking about what's next, so they leave a lingering impression and move on, making men curious. Did you know that? And did you know about that psychology?
That's why.
So I left without looking back, but I kept my heart open. That's where the problem started. It was early spring, and back then it was already January, the end of January.
At that time,
In my memory, it was the end of January, but it was very cold.
At that time, Guki.
It was about minus 20 degrees, but inside it was warm. We were working there, and the managers would say, if you don't clean up like this, you won't get your meal. So we had to do it thoroughly, but honestly, I still ate the food. I watched the movie Shin Pilgrim only in North Korea, where it was famous, but it wasn't well known in South Korea. Shin Sang-hyung.
That's right.
The beautiful scene I saw there.
The first time I experienced that shock.
Was it because I was young and naive?
And in that story,
The unfamiliar scene I had only heard about, the scene I had only imagined while following Wusan, I experienced it for the first time in my life at the age of 28. So that's why this is such a special memory for me.
the door.
As I opened the door to leave the military base, I cautiously peeked out and stepped through the slightly ajar door. Suddenly, 2 cars passed by, nearly catching me between them and causing my heart to skip a beat in fear of getting caught. But that's the reason. The reason is, when you eat salty food, you have to get rid of the carbon dioxide in your body quickly. So you breathe out, and then your body becomes alkaline. So that's why when you drink, you just collapse. Even if you try to stay on your feet, it's not easy, and you end up passing out. So next, those of us who usually eat a lot of salt may not realize it, but it's not good for us. It can cause problems in the body and lead to dizziness.
That's what happens.
So you end up rubbing your eyes, wiping your face, and you can't even lift your hands behind your head.
There's nothing there.
So Kyung-gu likes that. He feels a little happy about it. Seora, it didn't go well. That part didn't work out. From the start of the journey, it became a path I could never return to, a road I could never come back from.
If we try to organize it in a simple way, we were separated there, then taken to the Soviet Union and couldn't return again and ended up being left in China.
Even now, the people I meet or the acquaintances I have, whenever I am forced to make a choice, I realize that the most important thing in life is the choices we make. That one choice can sometimes lead to a path you can never return from. And if you make the right choice, it can bring glory and honor to your life.
In China, and also how I survived in China.
In China, that story is long. If you want to listen to the story and talk about drama, you have to talk about the 7.5 years I lived in China, including the connections, hardships, hunger, and new beginnings.
Changjin, Chengdu.
Shanghai lived in China.
In China?
That's how I spent 7.5 years. So what I want to talk about today is that rather than living like other men in China who just work hard, I have to give up my own comfort and survive.
If you want to live in China,
So that's how it is. As a man, I tend to give up on such things. In the past, I also had a somewhat conservative mindset. Whether it's being stubborn or just thinking about my body,
It was about style. But in China,
that kind of time doesn't exist. What about in China? I have to figure out how to get through today with an empty stomach, and tomorrow I have to worry about how to survive.
and then at that time,
The time I remember is February 2002.
it was February 5th.
On the 5th from Cheongbeksan, I walked all the way to Malogu, passing through Manjang until I reached Hyeongjang.
Until then,
The road is called the 11th Road. When we usually talk, a week feels like a very short time, but back then, that road felt like it took an hour to walk. On the way to Chuiya village, you have to cross a river, and on the way, there are also the Baekdu Mountains. In China, they're called the Changbai Mountains, but in that valley, there are a lot of hills. So you have to survive with them, and you have to endure the cold and walk through the snow, and you have to survive in that environment. Back then, even in the middle of winter, I walked for 11 days in the snow and survived. Looking back, I don't know how I did it. If I had to walk that road again, I don't think I could.
It was just too hard.
It was so long and painful, it was like a test of survival.
Was it the 11th of the last month?
That's right. In China, I didn't have any friends and I couldn't speak the language. And then, when I tried to talk, people could tell right away that I was a foreigner, so they avoided me.
Because I was different.
And then, when the snow started to fall, everyone would gather together and share stories. So from the snow,
that's right. So
they were called gongan, requiring people to hide and stay quiet if they made even a small noise like stepping on a branch. Trauma formed from having to quickly hide, even if the sound was made from far away. But now in China, from what I've experienced, there are a lot of really kind people. Above all, this helped me the most. Confession, I made a confession and ate together.
No.
No, that's because when I first came to China, the first meal I tried was dog food.
But I was so hungry too.
I starved for 3 days, and at that time, it wasn't just dog food. I was so hungry that I ate anything. So when people say we're poor because we eat strange things,
It's true, it's poverty.
if you starve, your mind changes.
Well, I enjoyed it, but
I was in that state, but at some point, I collapsed in the middle of the street. In China, that name is Ama Restaurant, and since it's a restaurant, they call it a restaurant. So in China, that's what it's called. When it comes to holidays, they have more than 8 days off. So when you look at it, that's all.
if you leave it, it goes bad.
That's how it is.
Throw it away.
If we just say it, it's like a dog barking.
But when it comes to animals,
Originally, it's chuni, so just as it is.
I'm about to freeze to death.
If I say it here, it's a refrigerator.
에이즈고금.
Refrigerator.
Okay, that's it.
That's how it works. The dog rolled in the grass and got on its fur.
It's there, but
I am
배고파, but
clearly that's...
it has to be gebek.
I mispronounced the name. So Sam left the Ultari, and the people of the neighboring village put up a fence.
And then inside,
Since they were chatting, they would ride the swing and open the gate.
환치로도, but
It was too bright.
it was dazzling, in the dark.
Our Kim Il-sung comrade used to say that sitting in this room and guarding the country was the greatest thing. But when I came out of China, what that dog was eating was not this room, but raw fish
With pork soup,
and various other things.
like the cold 부대찌개.
The same.
That kind of appearance.
The moment I saw it, I was sure. So I changed the character's role. China!
Dogs can eat better than most people.
Oh, God. Back then, when I was in North Korea, I knew there was alcohol that China couldn't drink, and even Namjoseon couldn't drink. But then the media said that people there couldn't even eat proper food because they were so poor.
That's why, because I grew up hearing that.
Even that dog didn't eat such food because it didn't like it, but it was still trying to survive. Dogs and beasts can only eat what they can eat on their own, but humans are different.
Humans overeat.
They end up binge eating.
But cats,
Don't do that.
they do, so...
If you just keep your own territory and look at your body.
But
But
Namujiro starved.
how many times did I sweep the yard? So I tried to bring it as a delivery with that pain.
I left it there, so...
It's his territory, so he has to protect it. Still, the cat is at my house.
This is where you...
What? And then he makes a loud noise. But that's not something you can just throw away. It's a valuable thing, so you have to keep it.
You have to survive.
Even in our north, we have to eat to survive, so we have to solve the problem of food first.
Because that's how it is, that's why.
Solving the food problem.
Hwanseon dog food.
Behind Hwanson's house.
If you go, it's right there.
Because it's eel, I can't eat it either. It's not ice cream.
That's why
When holding a dog leash, hold it behind you. In the past, this was common practice in China. If you look at most of the paintings, the leash goes out, and behind it, the leash is all tangled up. The leash is tied around the neck, and originally, that's how they started walking dogs.
because the chimney is made of bricks.
Then, from the part where the chimney meets the wall, the ice would start to melt little by little.
But then interestingly,
My intestines didn't...
oh, we're fine, but I was hungry.
No, Meiji was like that.
I ate and felt happy.
So, no, that's why I was so happy. And after eating that, I thought, if we keep eating greasy food like this, it might not be good for our bodies. And now there are a lot of cases where people get diarrhea. But back then, even if I was really hungry or ate a lot, I never had any problems.
Anyway, in China, people really eat a lot of insects.
Besides that, there were many other things. Besides that, even in the middle of the field,
I hung my clothes outside.
because there was nothing else, I had to dry my clothes there.
Donk, Billy.
Now, you have to take off your clothes, Billy. You have to take off your clothes. If you want to survive, you have to survive. If you hold on, you'll be fine. So I put the pants I took off on the rock and dried them. The people who experienced the war in Yongwon are in the basement. If you do it like that in the winter, it gets really stiff and cold. Oh, But if you leave it like that, it freezes even harder. So you have to shake it off. If you don't shake it off, everyone in the neighborhood knows. So the strong people would come out and they'd use sticks to beat the frozen laundry. And then they'd shake it off again. After beating it, they'd hang it up again. And if it froze again, they'd beat it and shake it off once more.
Because Simri is not feeling well?
I stayed there quietly, trying hard to hold on and unable to talk.
So I watched what was happening. I watched the situation.
So I realized it had to be someone who was clearly suspicious. So I would go to the neighborhood, give them things they needed, give them rice, and bring things to their rooms and help them out. There were a lot of people who were grateful, but there were also a lot who weren't.
Jinshim, it was so hard to listen, and it was so heartbreaking and sad. More than that, you must have had a really hard time. After enduring all that, I started thinking, what if I can't survive in China and end up dying there? Those thoughts kept coming to me.
In China, I went to Tianjin, Qingdao, and even Shanghai. Now, I kept moving around like that, so it wasn't easy for me to give up on North Korea. I have to go back to my hometown.
I have to, but...
Now, to be honest, I don't have a nationality.
And that's why I'm wondering.
I became stateless due to Shinsero, leaving me in a foreign country.
In this land.
If I die, I'll die without any form or trace, without even a proper tombstone. That's what I kept thinking.
That's how it was, so...
If I want to hold on, I have to go deep inside.
It happened, Yonggu.
In the past, many Joseon and Han people hid deep inside to avoid detection. If you stay, you'll get caught. Go inside quietly. That's how I ended up in Cheonjin, and despite getting hurt, I made it. But in China for about 7.5 years, I lived like that, hiding and moving around, sometimes in Shanghai, sometimes somewhere else, always on the run. I also worked as a city guide and enjoyed cooking, since I like doing things like that. I also ran a lunchbox company because I like cooking, but the problem was money. When I first had a kidney transplant in China, I was able to live with the donor kidney for a while.
It was possible, and then...
Now, in order to survive in society, you need to have a residence registration, or to put it another way, you need to have a household registration. That household registration must exist, and you also need to have an identification card. It's not enough to just have an identification card. You have to be registered there in order to live.
It's called a residence permit, but...
That's what you need to do now. But when I first got my identification card, it was really nice.
But now...
When I changed my identification for the second time as Lana, I had to deal with the Korean identification system.
But now, secretly...
To input it into the system, the name must precisely match mine, the sensor.
It has to be held exactly right.
Because of this, you can't live in China.
I couldn't see Yoon-Hang-il.
All guides, all businesses, everything is now restricted for foreigners. So, how can I from the residence registration office?
Because I don't have it. Living here...
It's hard.
That's why the national identity...
I must follow it, but to be recognized for my nationality here, there's nothing I can do. China doesn't recognize it.
That's why...
When observing Korea through the internet, many frustrated young people are evident.
There are North Korean defectors at that time?
I first learned about it online. That's how South Korea recognizes North Korean defectors.
And then...
As a Korean citizen.
Or another's.
I also learned that Shin Bun-do passed away, at that time, in 2008, Beijing Olympic.
At that time...
Now feeling proud as a Korean.
I lived like this.
Did you make up your mind? Well, let's listen to your story here today. You must have gone through a lot of hardships. You must have been very tired at this time.
We usually use our smartphones in our daily lives.
We look at them a lot, so our eyes get tired easily, and sometimes it's hard to see clearly. So today I'll tell you 2 tips for that. There's a spot called Gyeongjagi Jamsoki. It's at the corner of your eyes.
It's here on the side.
At the Gyeongjagi Jamsoki, place your thumb like this and press, then release, then press again, then release, and repeat this several times. Just like a massage, there are lines all over the body, and there are also lines here. This is here. This is an important acupoint. There are also other points, but even if you can't remember all of them, just rub your eyes like this from time to time, and also focus on this area between your eyebrows. When we come out from a dark place and look at the light, our pupils react like this. This is normal.
If you press it like this...
It's also on this side called Shungyup Hae. I'll teach you 2 spots. Since there's the Shungyup point, press it with your thumb, then let go, then press again, then let go. Do this repeatedly, all the way to here.
So after living so well in China, and in the end not even getting citizenship in China, I ended up coming back to Korea.
I missed you in Korea.
When you escaped, how did your family react?
There was nothing, and again,
No money and no nationality.
there was nothing, and I was scared. And then I was also confused. So the people in China are not ordinary people.
내 수로가.
I became a strange person, and now from this point on.
If I say it, it might sound like an excuse.
And it becomes a burden.
Now we.
If I say it bluntly, it just became a burden.
That's it.
So, in order to survive here, I spent a lot of time and effort, and looking back, it was all about trying to survive. But when I first came to Korea, I arrived at Incheon Airport. I didn't know much about Korea, and I was just nervous.
I didn't even know what Incheon Airport was, honestly. I was just surprised.
I was unfamiliar with Incheon Airport, and unlike my usual travels, where the airport was close to home, the distance from Incheon Airport to home in Korea was very far, making it feel unfamiliar. I couldn't even recognize the back door.
I said I was coming out, so
I was surprised to find another alley like this in Korea. As I was leaving, I wondered where to go next. I got in the car, unsure of my next destination.
That's how it was. And then.
As I sat on the bus, I gazed at the city, unsure if it was Seoul or Incheon. But when I looked, the houses were all packed together, but everyone seemed to be living so well and peacefully.
That's how it was. Tall.
I can't hear it when it's built, but when it's coming, I can't hear the tall ones. But the neighbors are all excited. Then after that, when I said it at the rally, I heard the name National Assembly member, and then it became Han Hwa-won.
I came out Han Hwa-won.
So now, when I say this, all the people who have been through Han Hwa-won know that you can't go to the place you want as you wish. I have to prepare.
That's right. And then
Some people, whether among the general public or the vice general public, possess a unique talent for knowing where to go when you speak with them. But I also really like Jill, so I support him too. When I was in North Hamyang, what I knew was Seoul. And the next thing I knew was that there was nothing beyond Gwangju.
how did I come to know about Gwangju after Seoul?
When I was in North Korea, there was an English phrase that said, Gwangju. Ah, that's how I came to know about it. There was something like that, that's why.
Really? Tell me more.
Me? How could I have thought like that? Gwangju and Seoul performed well in the public sector. In the north, they favored Gwangju, considering its history. Moon Dae-seo and then Yeon-ae. The man's name is Se-young.
Seong's doing it, but the situation is.
He swallowed the gun. Here, someone just came out of the water, but how long did that diver stay underwater? Because there was that kind of impulse. I ended up going to Gwangju. So,
Nam Jo-sun from South Korea was living in Seoul and knew about Gwangju, but you didn't stay in Seoul and went to Gwangju instead.
yes. But what is Gwangju anyway? It's not a small city. It's a big city, a metropolitan city, Gwangju. Metropolitan city. Did you know the route to Gwangju, like which highway to take? That's correct. The Korean Expressway ranks 5th in the world, but inside the top 5, they're all about the same.
So is it because Korea is new, clean, and impressive that people think so highly of the expressways?
First of all, it's the roads. Even the 2-lane roads are amazing.
No, it's the 4-lane roads.
5 lanes. These are huge roads. Here,
If that's the case, I'm a little worried. I have, but meanwhile.
I lived, in North Korea.
Sudo, and then after that.
Hamhung, the second.
Sudo is Hamyang, and the roads in Hamyang City.
And the expressways and such there.
If you compare the roads in North Korea to ours, you might say that our drivers would be surprised or find it difficult to drive there. But still, if we try to compare, how good are our roads in South Korea?
In North Korea, there aren't really any highways like the ones we have here. The quality and number of highways there just can't compare to ours.
Sujulman, that's right.
In North Korea, living on the lower floors reveals a view of everything being covered in asphalt.
But still, it's Hamhung.
The population is about 800,000. That's how big it is. Hamhung has a population of about 800,000. Yes, it's big. And besides that, in the north, it's also an industrial city, and next to it is Hungnam Port. Hungnam has a fertilizer factory, so it's very big. And if you look at that big city, there's something called Line 1.
Line 1, it's called Line 1 Road.
It's Line 1 Road.
Now, if I say it again.
Hyunjiji Road is named after Kim Il-seong and Kim Jong-il, who were honored by the nation. When people come down or when they do activities, the road they use is called Road No. 1.
On the road, yes, that.
They manage Road No. 1, and it's the main road in the north.
They manage it, yes.
The road they manage is a national highway in South Korea.
Highway number 1 is a national highway in South Korea, and
If it's Sujin class, that's enough. And now that I mention it, expressways are, in my mind, either the Gyeongbu Expressway or the Tunnel-Shu in South Korea, right? That's not possible.
so I was surprised by that too. Because it's in Korea, I was amazed to see a tunnel on the highway or expressway, and there are things like rest areas. I was really surprised because we don't even have things like that near our house. But here, they're everywhere.
It's not just that there are lights at the entrance, but the tunnel itself is lit up. When I see something amazing here in concrete, when I see it for the first time, I realize there are tunnels here because this is a developed country.
To this shelter.
Whenever I pass by, I think about building a house that would allow me to survive anywhere, but
I just imagined it.
I wanted to make a big space like this, build a big house, and live in a cool place like that. If you look inside the tunnel, there are several meters in order of meters.
Tunnel.
There are several meters like this. So you can see the navigation, but if you look above the tunnel, the sign says 328 yards, then the next one says 438.9 yards. You can check the distance with the signs, so you don't have to look at the navigation all the time. These are called milestones, and the milestones are marked very clearly. If I say it again, these are milestones.
They're there. By the way,
It's too dirty.
because there are so many.
In my view, Korean roads appear more complex than those in the United States. I believed I couldn't navigate without global positioning system.
In Korea, the roads seem to be stacked on top of each other and tangled together in a complex network unlike anything I've seen before.
That's exactly how it is.
Bibyong, really high overpasses, how do they build those? For me, rather than seeing that, I wondered how they made those kinds of things.
So back in the day, in Korea, construction was something that was new to us at first.
With things like bridges and also,
Next.
and so on, were developed.
Countries like the United States and many others.
I listened and did it.
Now, if you look, South Korea is standing out among the advanced countries.
That's right, that's why.
This is something you can only experience once on the expressway, going out and coming back. This is a scientific process. Some roads also offer thrilling experiences.
Yes, just like this.
With the car's speed, and this is how it opens. When we drive the car,
You'll know when you see it.
as the tire spins, there's a humming sound.
Me riddle is me. When I sing, the music is with me.
On the street, now the tires are gone. Now it's just the street. Now I leave the tires behind, but I leave them right in the middle of the road.
That's the tire.
If you go down, you can only hear it as music. And if you do something dangerous, it's not allowed. So that we can recognize the melody from there, our melody, the melody of our sacred songs, can be recognized. That's why we made it, so that you can hear those sounds softly and gently. It's an amazing technology. It's not something you see every day.
I once watched the highway from Gwangju to Hanawon with someone.
I thought it was amazing.
I thought it was amazing.
You didn't just watch the road and think it was amazing. There were many other things as well. Also,
There could be more.
how should I say this? As I was walking down the road, I looked around and saw a lot of motels.
Joke.
There are a lot of motels. So before in Korea, there aren't many places like this in other countries. There are so many motels, but on the other hand, there aren't many hostels.
Motel.
Despite my knowledge of house motels and inns, the term motel was new to me. I had never encountered it in China, which made me slightly apprehensive about what a motel entailed. But as I was riding the highway, I noticed there were so many motels. There were motels in places with good scenery, and even when I went into the city, there were motels everywhere. When I first arrived in Haesan, I was surprised by the sheer number of motels scattered throughout the countryside, a sight I encountered repeatedly.
But then,
I know there are motels around. I know there are motels nearby. There are motels. There are signs everywhere. When I went near the motel, there were a lot of crosses there too. This is another clue.
Our director is very unique.
That's what it seems like. No, Nuncio. It's not like that.
I can't think like that. I just thought of it as a motel, but now that I think about it, there are people living there, and there are shops in the motel and around it.
There was, and where the motel is located?
It's nice, but this place is over there.
I just found out. It's a big deal.
If you ask, South Korea is...
We made this tunnel really well, and the roads are top-notch, but there's something even better. They invested in these mountains and nature, and if you look at the mountains nearby, you can see they've built structures and roads without destroying the natural environment. They did a great job preserving the area, not harming or ruining it, and really took care to protect nature. I wonder how they did that. That's what I was thinking. Even if we try to save on living expenses, it seems like our military base is also being modernized and improved like this, so it's hard not to be amazed when you see it. The amount of effort put into building golf courses is evident when you see them digging up the ground, rebuilding it, and bringing in sand from distant locations. But then also that...
And above there's nature.
They say it's alive, that nature that's breathing.
This is the real detailed
Thing. If we look at the road, there are ways to mark that it's been paved, but sometimes, naturally, animals can cross and leave tracks, or sometimes the road can be left unpaved for a long time and become rough again. That's what I saw. While at the flower shop, I parked my car out front. A cat came out and lay in the sun, basking in the sunlight.
There was another one.
저는...
I can't hear it. For me, this is the first time I'm hearing it. On the road,
There's a bathroom nearby, or there isn't.
there isn't. For me, I usually hold it in or go somewhere else, so I...
If you ask me to stop for a short while, I don't really like going to rest areas. Men usually don't have much patience for holding it in, but they try to endure it as much as possible. They can't really hold it for long, but they do their best. So yes.
So now Korea is becoming a developed country. And as we preserve nature and look after it, we are also becoming more sophisticated like before.
Those kinds of things, yes. In our North Korea, it's rare to see trees that are alive and close to people anymore. And in the central part of North Korea, where the military bases and military units are, there are even fewer trees that are alive. So where are all the trees? Kim Il-sung, Dongji Manse, this is the kind of slogan you hear.
There are slogans like Long Live Kim Il-sung, but there are no trees.
If you cut down a tree, you could be killed. That's the government law. Trees are life. In the mountains near the border, there are a lot of trees in the deep mountains, especially in the north.
So that's how it happened, and I ended up staying at Kangju's house. That's how we lived, helping each other and getting through each day.
Jilmulja.
What did you say first, Mom?
The people in Gwangju, Gwangyok City are in the basement. When I first started, I just did whatever I was told to do. At first, I just did what I was told. I went to a job agency and waited in the waiting area from 6 ante meridium.
After waiting there,
I followed their instructions.
together with the elders,
I went with the elders to the Cheongye Plaza.
to the demolition site.
When I first started working at the demolition site, I was told that if I just did what I was told, I would be fine. I wanted to do well, but I couldn't adapt to the language.
Ha! I couldn't understand the language, so I guessed.
Look at me and bring the drum and the handpan.
Bring it. This up.
The word for drill,
Even I, Munna.
didn't know either.
Ah, that's what you wanted to ask me?
So that's why this is. So, language has to be circulated, right? There are speakers and listeners, and it has to go back and forth for us to communicate. But if the language doesn't circulate, that's when it starts to get stuck. Because trouble arises, people say, listen to me. But just because you say that doesn't mean communication will happen.
But then I just stay quiet again.
When I try to say something, I blurt out whatever comes to mind, which doesn't come out right. This leads to trouble, so I stay quiet for a few days, and that's it. So I think, I can't even do this. I can't handle this. I don't have the skills for this.
First of all,
That tool?
the words used to use that tool, and even the names of the tools themselves, were hard to figure out.
So, to use that vice, or to bring the vice, I had to know all those terms, and that's why it was so hard back then. And then, after a week or so at the next class, I got a job at a gas station, and when I tried to fill up the gas with the nozzle, all I had to do was put it in the hole. But even the color of the nozzle was different.
Different, and
I had to distinguish the colors with a sense of touch. If you don't call me, I'll die. What should I do? So should I put the lighter in the back pocket of my pants and burn it, or what should I do? So how did it happen? Did you try to pull it out with force and it broke off? Or what happened? So right there I just poured the gasoline into the diesel tank, and the gas station owner still managed to handle it calmly. You know, if you just wreck one car, that's a big deal, but even if you manage to do it twice, you really need to be careful with this card. The drivers and the staff, they drive around, and then when they come back, how much cash do you think they've made by swiping cards? The calculation is simple. In the past, we only had cash. You gave the change, and that was it. Now you have to provide the card machine and process the payment through multiple steps. Where do I put this? You have to put it down, you have to swipe it. It's really hard.
That's why I wrote it so hard, but
I can't live.
Yes.
I know, so I let it go.
no, I was so nervous that I didn't even know where to insert the card, and I couldn't find the main entrance, but somehow I managed to get in.
How is that even possible? At that time, everything was about me, my worries, my daily life, and all the different things going on. First of all, I was young back then.
I needed money first, so
Because I have to live, I have to eat and survive. I had no choice. I had to go into those 24-hour open places and try to sell things, but I needed to have money first. I came to Korea with great determination. I was surprised to find 24-hour stores like convenience stores that I could visit even at night. I could go out. If I get hungry, I can just go out and buy something to eat.
yeah, but
But I can't even go out to do that, and I can't even order delivery.
they're not Koreans.
They're not Koreans, but I was like that too. No,
Well, that's how things change. This is the cafeteria.
because it's a machine, it delivers the food.
Yeah, how long has it been?
It's not that the times are changing, it's just that things are getting more complicated.
Yeah, that's why I can't leave my work at the liquor store and just go.
Next, I'm working at a panel now. Panel means we're building modern buildings in Korea by putting up panels like this, and then after construction, we remove them like this.
I'm doing interior work.
That's what it is. You bring the exterior to the street with an ash bar, an exterior structure placed directly on the floor.
And then you climb up there.
You have to climb up the ash bar and then put up the safety net.
Yeah, but
So, I was climbing up the ash bar and I was thinking about safety and being careful, but someone else just climbed up without thinking and quickly got to the top, and they ended up dying because they slipped and fell.
If you get scared, it doesn't work, but I just did it as I was told, just the way I am.
Back then, when I was told to do something well, if I got a vise, I would just carry it on my shoulder because it was heavy, but when I went up, I had to lift it up with a rope from behind. But I didn't know that at the time.
I'm not tall enough, so
I tried to stretch and hang on, but I couldn't reach. I put my armpit on the leg and tried to pull myself up, but I slipped and fell. That's why I couldn't do it. But that's how it happened.
did you get hurt? But
So if you sleep right after that,
I cut it off right there. Yes!
the most important thing is safety.
First and foremost, safety comes first, even at the company.
They strictly enforce safety regulations, but since I follow them closely, I don't get reprimanded for safety violations and can leave work on time.
That's why.
Because I do everything by the book, those people who have been doing things their own way, the veterans, don't follow the rules and just do things however they want. So that's why things end up working out better for me.
Now it's like that. Now safety is important, and now I know this, but back then, I just had to do what others told me to do.
If you just get paid for your work, then you just wait for the time to pass, and if you talk in the cafeteria, you just get paid by the hour, with cafeteria food.
like that.
And then, if you keep doing it like that, you end up with nothing to do. So I thought, should I just do what I'm good at? But then, when I started appearing on television, I tried to do my best in the places where I could do well, and I felt satisfied with my life, and I also felt proud and happy.
At the end of the words.
What I'm good at.
Should I keep it or not?
Should I keep what I learned? Should I keep the skills I know? Should I keep the talents I have? That's when I started worrying. So, at that time, without hesitation, I put everything into the hospital, and during the Gwangju uprising, As a Korean doctor, I knocked on every hospital door. I know that well, but how could I just stand by and do nothing? Then at that time, I left about 10 places behind, and in the middle of that, I got a call from one place. They said I could set up a consultation room in the hospital and that it would be good to have a lot of patients, so I set up the consultation room right away, right there.
The night shift was at night.
So the patients in the ward, the patients who were admitted, would try to get the best bed, the best spot, and they would try to get the best treatment, and that's how it was. I had to clean up, and then I had to keep changing the patient's bedding.
And then directly,
I had to do those things, and at night I also had to do rounds.
and then...
If Director 1 did something like that, I would ask, why did you do that? And try to figure out why. The dialect is spoken in the Mulichi dormitory.
So at first, when I went to the hospital and looked around the ward, I thought to myself, I can do this kind of work.
That's what I thought. In Korea, people don't even know about acupuncture points. And here,
There has to be a license.
but that's why I worked at a hospital, thinking I'd get a job here. Why wasn't it available back then? You did well, but it just wasn't the right fit. That's the reality. Back then, I acted that way. And even when I was desperate and struggling, there was no one to help me. But later, when someone explained things to me and helped me out, I was truly grateful to those people.
So I worked at that hospital and then went back to school to study again.
Your qualifications matter if you want to live in Korea and go to a university hospital. And then, after learning the skills in North Korea, I wasn't sure how much I could use them. But in South Korea, you have to follow the official procedures. So, I need to know which field I can go into in South Korea and which skills I can use.
That's what I need to find out.
So, in college I studied basic subjects like physics, American studies, and so on.
So after that...
So to put it simply, when I attended a regular school, I studied from the afternoon until 2 a.m. And in the morning, I studied for the civil service exam.
And after that,
My sister worked at a store.
at the store.
She also worked at the store at that time.
How did she do that? As for acting, Korean and North Korean acting are definitely different, but there were parts that were good.
I majored in English at university, so my English is good. When we talk to each other,
We do in North Korea.
in North Korea, doctors learn medicine in two ways. Western and Eastern medicine with the basics taught in Latin. All the doctors there are aware of this.
That's how it is, but...
But when you come here, everything is in English. Textbooks, medical terms, everything is in English. Having studied medicine in Korea, I learned everything in Korean, which is a bit confusing.
Hamyang University.
Is Han Jae in here? He's not here.
It's Baekje-in, but beautiful. Beautiful me.
It's a different personality.
That's right.
The bread's name is Aramdaun Bangjaga Gangjagi.
Mine is like this.
Mipung Mahyun is like this. Even though I speak in English, what I'm thinking is a completely different language. I initially said Mipung Mahyun without fully understanding it. Then someone else would.
Send me a message in Korea. Kumbang. Because it's close, it won't take long.
He said, cheer up, cheer up, cheer up, be brave, be brave. And the text was 3 letters.
Is it I love you, right?
No, it's not.
No, I can't do it. I can't. How could I?
I knew that.
I knew that.
It's not that I don't know how to do it. So at first I read that letter.
If you put it together,
Just the first letter, and then United States of America follows.
that's what I mean. So,
I couldn't understand, I couldn't figure it out, I couldn't get what they were saying, so I was confused. Is that what it means? I couldn't protect you, that's what I'm sorry I couldn't protect you means. Back then, for a while...
Seonsu said it's okay.
So, those words, the words we use now, how different are they? Yes, and then the next one.
nice, awesome.
Back then, they said you had to use that word well.
But as for me,
But honestly, I couldn't get used to this word.
I wasn't used to it.
In our north, when North Koreans greet each other, sometimes they greet each other very formally.
But in South Korea,
Swearing is something we usually...
no swearing.
In the middle, when swearing is severe, it's like this.
At first,
To here,
it was hard, but
here, it's a simple saying. But in the north, when we say it, it means father, stay asleep. Mom, you wake up.
That's how it is. It's very direct.
Yongisu.
For us, usually,
We usually don't say things like that directly like, hey you bastard, or you're an XX-year-old, or you're a punk. But there are also some really nice swear words. because it's XX year old. That's actually a really good curse word. This is...
I was trying to ask what kind of dialect it was, but the swear word,
I learned swearing from Yale Munja in Korea. Yes, I like it.
when I was young, I was good at things like language, so I picked them up quickly. In Korea, I started studying English in college.
It worked out well, it did.
It was hard.
So adapting to that was really hard. All the vocabulary, daily life, most of the English words. There are a lot of English words in Korean style English these days, and we get stressed. It's frustrating. All of this is because, in terms of meaning, our native language is disappearing from our identity. That was the hardest part for me. Our traditional history is gradually disappearing, and this is naturally,
Together with the environment.
just as it has vanished, our language is also fading away.
Well, in the past, it was difficult to do many things safely. It was hard to find a main supplier, and some people couldn't even pay by card. But now Park Jongmin Health Club Center is running a very lively center. In the past, it was difficult to communicate with Jongmin. But now, how is it that he is able to have such a respectable job and keep it going?
This job.
I know you must have put in a lot of effort for this job, but I'm also curious about what kind of efforts you are making now.
If I may say so, I learned it from someone who is even more experienced than I am.
Yes, that's right, I learned it.
Yes, and what we learned was actually from China. Also, if you start at around 7.5 years old, you can learn it as a child. And then as you get older, you can learn it in different places. You can learn it in Korea, and now you can learn it at the Hamyang hospital. And now you can learn it in various places as you get older. If you graduate from here, you can work as a doctor at a university in Korea or at a general hospital, so you can do this in the future.
Molka nahante.
The most suitable thing for me, something I kept thinking about, was something that would be useful again. An excelling person, a non-excelling person, a healthy person, an unhealthy person.
Whether it's a person or anyone else.
Exercise is necessary for health. And we need to maintain the strength our bodies need.
And next,
We need to maintain a sense of balance for our bodies and go back to the basics. If you do this, you can pass it on to others. And you can also learn from others by doing it this way. Yes, and so that's why I started thinking about my health.
alam to make it easier.
So, through that counseling, we started to look at each other's strengths and weaknesses, and that's how our relationship began to change.
You know, right now, just do what you can do well.
These days, our whole world is about corona.
In Siguk?
We can't communicate with each other right now, and after that, it's a world where we can't even see each other anymore. But even in these times, for our bodies, for our health, we still need to keep moving, stay active, and recently, even things like home workouts and quarantine exercises have become a new trend.
Things like this.
Now, a lot of people are prioritizing these things.
And then in Dehanvinguk.
The gross domestic product is rising.
So now,
Investing in myself.
like that for my health,
So I can invest for my health?
has gone up. So
These days, the things I can do are gradually decreasing, and I feel anxious and worried. I can also feel jealous of people who are able to do more, and I can even feel health-related anxiety. So now I can do things more proactively. Our liver,
baru soja lega.
you have to straighten up. You have to straighten your posture. And when our posture is right, our mind becomes more upright, and all our organs can be healthy. That's why we start the day with this basic posture.
Can you do it in the morning? Do you also run a center? And are you interested in other fields as well? Are you still doing that?
No, not really. But when I think about what I can do right now, I realize that for me it's all about rehabilitation. So I focus on rehabilitation and health, and that's why the people who come to see me are mostly those who need rehabilitation, not just the elderly, but anyone who needs it. Now that's all I do. I went to the mountains, found a nice spot, and built a small shelter there. So now I just stay there and don't do anything else.
Just for the people.
Now I want to create a fun story where people can communicate and relate to each other, and maybe try doing something like that. Is there anything you want to try?
I want to create something warm and cozy that can comfort people and help them heal. That's what I want to focus on. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. And I really hope your dream comes true. Yeah?
If you could share your story with us here today, I think it would be very helpful. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will be inspired by your story.
In our daily lives, we use our smartphones.
We don't look at it that much, right? So that's why our eyes often get tired, and sometimes it's hard to see well. So today I'll tell you 2 tips for that.
예, 경작이.
There's something called jamsokye, you know? On the side of your eyes, you place your thumb on this jamsoki point like this, and then press and release for about 3 seconds, then let go, then again, press and release for about 3 seconds, then let go, and repeat like this. Just like a massage, there are many acupressure points around the eyes. There are also points here, and this is called the Oyo point, which is an important acupressure point. There's also a point here, but you don't have to press all of them. Just go back and forth like this, massaging your eyes. This area is also important. When we stay in the dark for a long time and then look at the light, our pupils dilate like this, which is very sensitive.
That's how it is.
It's also on the outside. There's something called sukya, you know, the fat under the eyes.
I'm going to show you the location.
Since there's the sungya point, you press it and hold for 3 seconds, then release, then press again and release. Do this repeatedly, like this. Yes.
Right. I was going to apply the Jinjin Gakja technique today, but I ended up teaching something else again.
You're so...
Thank you, Aigo.
Thank you. Yes.
Everyone, thank you for watching today. If you liked it, please subscribe and like and leave a comment. Thank you for watching. Thank you.
Thank you.